"Doc, I don't feel like myself anymore." Those were the words of Mr. James, a 76-year-old retired teacher, who came to see me not long ago. His voice was steady, but his eyes held a quiet weight, a feeling many older men carry but rarely speak out loud. That moment reminded me how deeply aging can touch not just the body, but the spirit. I'm Dr. Robert Kessler, and for over 3 decades, I've walked alongside men navigating the later chapters of life. What I've learned is this: growing older doesn't mean growing invisible. It means growing wiser and often braver. In today's video, we'll explore a topic often brushed aside: male intimacy and self-connection in our later years. It's more important than many realize. If you've ever wondered about this quietly personal part of aging, I invite you to stay with me. The final insight I'll share might just surprise you and offer something deeply affirming. For many older men, there comes a quiet moment of doubt, often unspoken, but deeply felt. Mr. James, the retired teacher I mentioned earlier, once told me, "If I can't perform like I used to, does that mean I'm no longer a real man?" His words reflect a common belief, one shaped by decades of cultural messaging, that masculinity is tied to performance, and specifically, to the strength of an erection. But here's something we don't hear enough: biology evolves, and that's not failure. That's nature. After age 60, changes in blood flow and hormone levels are part of the natural aging process. According to a report published in the Journal of Sexual Medicine, over 50% of men in their 70s experience some level of erectile change, not because they've done anything wrong, but because the body is simply shifting. And yet, so many carry a sense of shame. Why? Because for too long, we've confused physical performance with personal worth. Movies, media, even locker room talk have taught men that intimacy is about proving something. But real intimacy, especially in our later years, isn't about performance at all. It's about presence. This shift in thinking is more than just comforting. It's powerful. When you let go of the pressure to achieve and instead focus on connection, something beautiful happens. Intimacy becomes less about doing and more about feeling. It becomes a quiet, mindful experience where emotional closeness takes the lead. One simple way to begin making this shift is through mindful solo touch, a practice that encourages awareness rather than outcome. For example, during private moments, try setting aside expectations. Instead of aiming for a goal, simply notice how your body feels. Tune into your breath, the sensation of your hand on your skin, the rhythm of your heartbeat. No pressure, no judgment. Mr. James started doing this just a few minutes a day. "I stopped chasing results," he said, "and started paying attention to myself. That changed everything." This is not about giving up, it's about redefining what strength looks like. And in this stage of life, strength often means being present, being honest, and learning to connect with yourself in new, meaningful ways. So if you've ever felt like your masculinity has faded, I invite you to pause. What if it hasn't faded but simply transformed? What if this next chapter isn't about losing who you were, but about becoming more of who you truly are? As we continue this conversation, it's important to look beyond old assumptions. Many men, like Mr. James, were taught that solo touch is just a mechanical act, something physical, quick, and often done with a sense of guilt or secrecy. But what if that view is missing the most powerful part? Science tells us that masturbation is far more than just physical release. In fact, it's one of the most neurologically rich experiences the human body can create. When a man reaches orgasm, his brain releases a cascade of chemicals: dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin, all working together to boost mood, lower anxiety, and even improve sleep. According to a 2019 article in Harvard Health Publishing, this neurochemical blend helps regulate emotions and supports a deeper sense of overall well-being. So rather than brushing it off as unimportant or shameful, think of it this way: solo touch can be as beneficial for your emotional balance as a morning walk or a balanced meal. It's not about indulgence, it's about self-regulation, a quiet, private ritual that supports mental and emotional health in a deeply personal way. Mr. James used to think it was just a leftover habit from his youth. But once he understood the science behind what was happening in his brain, he saw it differently. "It's like I've had this built-in tool for stress relief all along," he said. "And I never realized it could be used to take care of myself, not just to escape something." That shift in mindset makes all the difference. It's not about turning this into a routine or checklist. It's about creating space for awareness. One practical way to do that is by starting with what I call an emotional check-in. Before beginning, simply pause and ask yourself, how am I feeling right now? Am I tense? Lonely? Grateful? There's no right or wrong answer, only noticing. Then, during the experience, gently redirect your attention from mental fantasy to physical sensation. Pay attention to the texture of your skin, the rhythm of your breath, the small waves of feeling across your body. Even just 5 minutes of this kind of mindful presence can shift the way you experience your own touch from something rushed or routine to something grounding, real, and deeply human. It's easy to overlook small habits, especially the quiet ones we don't often talk about. But the way we relate to our own bodies matters, especially as we age. This isn't about performance or perfection. It's about reconnecting, rewiring, and reminding ourselves that pleasure, presence, and peace of mind are still within reach. And sometimes, they begin with the simplest act, learning to listen to the body, to the breath, and to the quiet emotions we so often put aside. As we age, many men quietly accept a slowing sex drive as a sign that their time of intimacy is over. But let's pause and reframe that thought. What if the real problem isn't aging itself, but what happens when we stop engaging with our own bodies? Mr. James, whom we've been following throughout this conversation, once admitted, "I thought avoiding intimacy altogether would protect me from disappointment." What he didn't know, and what many men don't, is that disuse can quietly cause more harm than aging alone. There's a well-known phrase, use it or lose it. While often tossed around like casual advice, science shows it holds real weight. According to Urology Times, regular sexual stimulation helps preserve the health of penile tissue by keeping blood flowing and oxygen levels steady. Without it, the tissue can gradually stiffen, and nerves may become less responsive. Over time, this can lead to reduced sensitivity, circulation issues, and even fibrosis, where soft tissue is replaced by rigid, scar-like matter. And it's not just about the tissue itself. Sexual inactivity may also affect the prostate. Gentle stimulation helps clear out fluids that might otherwise build up, potentially reducing future discomfort. In other words, regular, mindful touch can act as a kind of physical upkeep, much like stretching keeps your muscles from tightening as you grow older. That's why I often suggest something simple to my patients. The 5-minute rule. A few times a week, set aside just 5 minutes for gentle, non-goal-oriented stimulation. This isn't about chasing an outcome. It's about encouraging healthy circulation and keeping the nerves engaged. No pressure, no expectations, just presence. Mr. James told me that when he started following this practice, he stopped seeing his body as something broken and started seeing it as something worth tending to. You wouldn't ignore your heart, your joints, or your balance as you age. Your intimate health deserves the same care. The body responds to gentle attention, and even a few quiet moments of connection each week can make a meaningful difference over time. It's never about being perfect. It's about staying connected to yourself, to your senses, and to the small, consistent actions that help you feel alive. As we continue exploring this personal and often unspoken journey, there's one topic that deserves honest attention: the quiet impact of pornography on the aging male brain. It's a sensitive subject, yes, but it's also one that has affected more men than we realize. Mr. James once told me, "I only turned to videos when I felt disconnected, but over time, even that stopped working." His story isn't unique. Many older men use pornography to spark desire when natural arousal seems harder to reach. And in moderation, it may seem harmless, but when it becomes the main source of stimulation, something starts to shift subtly, but powerfully. Here's what science has found. Modern pornography floods the brain with dopamine, the reward chemical that lights up when we feel pleasure. According to research in Psychology Today, this constant, high-level stimulation can lead to neuroadaptation, a process where the brain becomes desensitized to normal levels of pleasure. What does this mean in everyday life? It means that real touch, whether it's your own hand or the gentle presence of a partner, may begin to feel dull or disconnected. Over time, the brain craves more intensity, more novelty, and begins associating sexual pleasure with screens, not human connection. This isn't about morality, it's about chemistry. Mr. James described it best. "It was like my senses were turned down. I wasn't numb physically, but I felt far away from myself." That sense of distance is what many describe as the emotional fallout of long-term porn dependence. Not just less sensitivity, but also less connection, less intimacy, less presence. So what can help? One simple yet powerful approach is a dopamine fast. Try stepping away from pornography entirely for 1 to 2 weeks. During that time, focus on reconnecting with your body through slower, more mindful touch. At first, it might feel unfamiliar, even uncomfortable. But what you're doing is resetting the brain's sensitivity, allowing it to reawaken to the subtleties of real sensation and emotional closeness. Many men who try this report feeling clearer, more grounded, and surprisingly more in tune with themselves. It's not about cutting something out, it's about inviting something deeper back in. Pleasure isn't supposed to be extreme. It's supposed to be human felt, not forced. And sometimes, all it takes is a gentle reset to remember what real connection feels like. As we near the heart of this conversation, it's time to address one of the most misunderstood beliefs about aging and intimacy. The idea that masturbation in later life is a sign of loneliness, or worse, something to be ashamed of. Many men silently carry the feeling that their desires no longer belong, that if they still crave touch or connection, they must be clinging to a part of themselves they should have outgrown. But let's look at that differently. What if those desires aren't something to hide, but something that shows your body and your spirit are still very much alive. Take the story of Mr. Harold, a 75-year-old widower and former train engineer. After his wife passed away, Harold went nearly 7 years without any physical intimacy. Not because he didn't miss it, but because he thought it was no longer appropriate. He told me, "I felt invisible, like I had quietly stepped out of life." But when Harold began to reconnect with his body without pressure, and without shame, something began to shift. He started sleeping better, his mood improved, and slowly, he began to feel grounded again. What made the difference? It wasn't a dramatic event or a new relationship. It was simply the practice of mindful self-touch, a quiet moment each day, where he gave himself permission to feel present, human, and whole. This isn't just personal experience, it aligns with what we've learned from studies in the Journal of Gerontological Psychology, which show that positive attitudes toward aging and sexuality contribute to improved mental health, better sleep, and a stronger sense of identity. Masturbation, especially when done with care and intention, becomes something far more meaningful than release. It becomes a form of self-respect, a way of tending to your emotional and physical well-being. When you stop viewing it as a leftover impulse and start seeing it as a part of self-care, it transforms into a powerful act of affirmation. So here's a gentle invitation. Give yourself permission, not because you're lonely, but because you deserve to feel connected to your body and your worth, regardless of age. Allow yourself to explore what it means to feel alive. Not for someone else, but for you. Mr. Harold told me, the first time I gave myself that permission, I cried. Not from shame, but from relief. I remembered I'm still here. And you are still here, still feeling, still worthy of care, connection, and dignity every single day. Looking back, what Mr. James found wasn't just 5 tips. It was a quiet journey back to himself. Each step helped him release old pressures, reconnect with his body, and redefine what masculinity looks like after 75. Instead of measuring worth by performance, he embraced mindful touch, emotional awareness, and presence. Research from the Journal of Gerontology confirms what he experienced firsthand. Self-connection improves mood, sleep, and inner confidence. But more than anything, Mr. James stopped seeing his desire as something shameful. He began to see it as a message from within. I'm still here. I still feel. I still matter. So in the end, this wasn't about turning back the clock. It was about stepping into a new kind of strength, one rooted not in perfection, but in self-respect. And it all began with permission to simply pay attention. I hope you're walking away not with pressure, but with peace. You've heard today that intimacy in later life isn't about chasing the past, but about honoring where you are now. Mr. James reminded us that even the quietest moments of self-connection can spark confidence, calm, and a renewed sense of self-worth. You don't need to change everything overnight. Just start with one small, intentional step. Maybe tomorrow, take 5 minutes to check in with yourself, not to judge, but to gently reconnect. And if you have any medical concerns or questions, please don't hesitate to speak with your doctor. Your well-being matters, and you deserve support at every stage. If you're still watching this video and found something meaningful here, I'd love to know. Drop a 0 or 1 in the comments so I can see you're with me. And if this message spoke to you, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who might need it, and subscribe for more warm, honest conversations. Your journey is still unfolding and you're not alone.